On Thursday, we went through how to do the following: zone counting receivers, strength crawl criteria, what our jack alignment rules are, corner roll rules, how we're going to change with motion, and potential formation adjustments. This picture has a lot in it. First, receivers and how we count them. We count them from the sideline to the ball. The one closest to the sideline would be number 1, 2, and then to the ball. Once we get to the ball, we start from the opposite sideline. Also in this picture, we have our strength call. We're going to call the strength to the number of receivers, the greater number of receivers. So in this case, we are in criteria 1, which is a strong left. If, let's say, the number of receivers are the same on both sides, whether it's 2 and 2 or 1 and 1, then we're entering into criteria 2. And in criteria 2, strength will be called to the field. So in criteria 1, it was to the number of receivers, and now 2, when the receivers are even, to the field. This brings us to our last criteria, criteria 3. And in criteria 3, we have even numbers of receivers on both sides, and the ball is directly in the middle of the field. Now in criteria 3, our default strength call will be toward the back. So in this case, as the picture, we are in a strong left. But unlike criteria 1 and 2, criteria 3 can change with a game plan. In this picture, we've decided to call strength to the left, but how could we change it? Well, if that running back is running across the field, either to the perimeter or inside, and is their biggest threat, we may flip our strength call from going strong left, which is in the picture, to strong right. Another example of changing our strength call in criteria 3 would be if there is a big time receiving threat opposite of the back. In this case, we may call strength in criteria 3 right at that receiving threat. Another thing that we found when we break down film and after we scout is that quarterbacks tend to throw their intermediate to short routes at a higher percentage rate to one side or the other. And a lot of times that's opposite of the back. So if that's the case, where we're seeing a lot of short routes or intermediate routes going to one side that may be opposite than our original criteria 3 strength call, then we would change our strength call. In this case, we're in a strong left because of the back, but maybe game planning puts us in the right because the quarterback tends to throw to that side. In the following formation, we could talk a little bit about alignment. First, the two receivers are to the left. Therefore, this would be a strong left. The jack receiver would go to the left. And by his rule, the number 2 receiver is off of the line and split out. And he would be therefore in his apex position, being the under defender as well as force, which means contain. The weak corner, even though it looks like there's 2 of them out there, it's really the 2 positions that they could do depending on game plan. If they have to roll over, we call that the roll over position, the tight end. In this case, the dark white circle. The weak corner will have 2 choices. He'll either go up and press the tight end, and we call that cutthroat, or play 7 by 1 off the outside shade of the tight end. Game plan can actually decide whether we're going to be in a criteria 1 or criteria 2 setting throughout the game. Now our base rule in this case is we are in criteria 1, strong left, 3 receivers are to our left. But if we continue to note that some teams that we play like to run perimeter away or crossing routes away from the formation into the field, meaning that, in this case, going from the receiver's left to our right, we may game plan a criteria 2 game plan, meaning that the field will be strong no matter what, unless we get into criteria 3. In this situation, we are criteria 3 all the way. Remember here, we're going to call strength to the back, strong right, unless we have a game planned otherwise, based on running back threat, quarterback throwing, dangerous receiver. Criteria 3 is a game plan decision. There really is just 2 types of motions that we'll work on early. That is if they motion from our strength to our weak, or from our weak to our strength. In this case, the number 2 receiver on the weak side is motioning across the formation to our strong side. Only one player would need to adjust, our free safety. He would basically go to or about halfway across the formation and keep his eyes on the number 3 receiver if he reads pass. With this formation and motion, it's a little more complicated. Now, we've called a strong left, and the motion goes from our strength to our weakness. If that's the case, there'll be multiple players moving. The jack would go onto the line. The strong corner would roll over the remaining receiver. The strong safety would move toward the middle of the field, and our free safety now would have to roll down to play the jack position. So now you can see real quickly that free safeties and strong safeties will have to know how to be an under defender in case there's motion.